Hello everyone, good morning. So let's have a quick market recap on yesterday's data. Okay, so first things, the inflation rate for Switzerland for the month of June. So previous data was 0.3% and forecasted at 0.2%. And release time yesterday, 2:30 p.m. And for the month of June, the inflation rate for Switzerland was 0.1%. So did not beat the forecasted data and the previous data as well. And the usual effect for the USD against the Swiss franc during the 1 hour chart yesterday, the pair was actually traded back and forth around the 0.9230 and around the 0.9250 level. But during the Asian session of this, as of this moment, the current price of the dollar against the Swissy is around the 92 or 0.9261 level. Followed by the PMI or the manufacturing sector for Eurozone for the month of June. So previous and forecasted, same thing at 63.1. And release time yesterday, 4 p.m. And for the month of June, the manufacturing PMI for Eurozone was 63.4. So slightly higher than the forecasted and meets the previous data. So after the release, the euro dollar on the 1 hour chart, after the release of the PMI for Eurozone, it went up to 30 pips, but after the release during the US session, the price actually retreated below the 1.1840. Meanwhile, we have the manufacturing PMI as well for UK for the month of June. So previous and forecasted, same thing at 64.2, and release time yesterday 4:30 p.m. And for the month of June, the manufacturing PMI for UK was 63.9. So lower than the forecasted, and it did not beat the previous data. And after the release, the GBP against the dollar down at 50 pips after the release. And during the Asian session, the current price of the GBP against the dollar was around the 1.3765. And one of the key data last night is the weekly initial jobless claims for US. So previous data is 415K and forecasted at 390K. And the release time yesterday, 8:30 p.m. And the weekly initial jobless claims for US was 364K. So higher than the forecasted, and it beats the previous data. Also, we have the manufacturing PMI for US for the month of June. So previous data was 62.6. And for the month of June, the actual data is 62.1. So slightly lower than the previous data. And the dollar index, right after the release of the PMI and the weekly initial jobless claims, the dollar index had a modest gains around the 92.50 level. And during the Asian session, the price still remains at 92.50. And economic data today, during the session, the most awaited data for the month of June is the non-farm payroll and the unemployment rate for US later at 8:30 p.m. And a key product for today, we have gold, right? So during the Asian session, the current price of gold was around the 1778.46 per ounce during the Asian session. But personal opinion, I'm more on the bearish bias with this one because the economic calendar is actually expected, or the NFP data based on the economic calendar is expected to be much higher than the previous data. Same goes with the unemployment rate. So the unemployment rate is also expected to be much lower than the previous data. So overall, if the US data beats the market forecasted and the previous data, so it may cause the gold under pressure once again. So possible support is 1767.30 and 1757.97, and resistance 1784.46 and 1792.28 per ounce respectively. Again, for the US session, we have non-farm payrolls for the month of June and unemployment rate as well. So someone is having a drawing here. So anyway, non-farm payrolls for the month of June and unemployment rate for the US. So we can expect that once the data for US will be released later on, so we might see a very volatile effect for those currencies that is paired by the US dollar.